All right, hey everyone, welcome back to Prep for Impact. I'm your host, Matt Parrish, retired Green Beret, and I've got an amazing guest for us today. We had Florida State Senator Jay Collins in, and he spent over 20 years as a Green Beret, worked his way through all sorts of injuries and setbacks in order to continue to serve, was very successful, even though he had combat injuries and ultimately had to have his leg amputated, but just a lifetime of service within Special Forces. But what's even more impactful, throughout his story, you're going to hear times where he didn't get, he didn't have the path that he originally wanted. It wasn't what he chose, but he chose to make sure, he couldn't control where he was placed or what the injury or different things that happened, but he could control how he reacted to that. And you'll hear that throughout this episode and throughout his story. He ultimately went out after being a Green Beret, after he retired, he started working in the nonprofit world and was very impactful in giving back to the community, and then ultimately felt a call for service again to run for office and to step up and serve our country once again, ultimately now winning a state senator seat. And he'll talk a little bit about, at the end of the interview, a little bit about what he's been doing in the Florida State Senate and what he sees as the reason why vets need to step up and answer the call once again. So it was a phenomenal conversation. I'm excited to give it to you, and I hope that you really enjoy Prep for Impact, a Green Beret Foundation podcast.
Oh shit, boys, look alive. We're coming in hot. All stations. Prep for Impact.
All right, hey everyone, welcome back to Prep for Impact. As you heard in the intro, got an awesome opportunity to talk to a great guest today. Fellow Green Beret veteran and Florida State Senator, Jarrid Jay Collins. Jay, thanks for coming in, man. It's great to talk to you.
Be here, brother. Thank you for the opportunity, man. It's great.
I know as an elected official, you're all over the place between nonprofits and everything else. So again, man, I really appreciate it. I told you before we hit record, when I started off to do Prep for Impact and start my own podcast, you were one of the first guys. I was like, this guy's got to be in the first chunk of episodes. Being a Tampa resident and having you be one of our representatives and seeing you, we just saw each other again on July 4th. It's awesome to have my kids with me and be like, yo, look at the Green Beret who's out representing us. So, I appreciate that not only as a constituent, but also as a fellow Green Beret. It's awesome.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate it, man. It's the first lesson I learned as a Green Beret, right?
Yeah.
Walking into selection, you're there, and I swear to God, this dude was like 75 years old. He was like probably 35, right? It looked like he'd been ridden hard and put away wet for months. And in this like Paul Mall voice, he's like, look, man, if you don't do anything else, remember this. I'm like, I better listen to this, right? He seems like he has some knowledge. You always got to leave it better than you got it, right?
There you go.
And that's what it's about, man. It really is. And just having the opportunity to come back and make a difference and, show us in the art of possible, it's a blessing.
It's super cool, when we'll get into, politics and all that later, but just as we're talking about it, man, it's super cool to see now so many global war on terrorism vets like getting involved, because it seemed like there was like a dearth of that for a little while because, wars were going on, everything was going crazy, and it was like, it almost seemed like there were less veterans, period, but the veterans that were representing were much further back in history, and it seemed like there was sort of a desert there where we weren't getting as many younger guys and gals that had served in the current. And then, we've seen an uptick of that, I would say definitely over the last 4 years, of folks feeling that call to serve again. And it's super interesting to see the different, you and others that have stepped up to the plate. I think it's an awesome opportunity.
Well, and I think you see a lot of people from our community doing it. Again, it's the tip of the spear, right? We're out there doing what we have to do. Yeah. It's not what we necessarily want to do. I didn't dream of politics, man. This is not where I wanted my life to go. It is not where I thought it was going to go. I thought after the military, I'd probably have a job, do those things, start a business. Yeah. But I wanted to be in a boat in the Gulf fishing with my kids.
There you go.
That's where I wanted to be. But man, we know what matters. We know what's at stake, right? We've lost brothers. We've lost family. We've lost sisters in some cases, right? Yeah. And we've buried them. And all that they were and all that they could be was lost for something that we understand, right? If we don't start getting people who understand what's at stake, who have built things or bled for things into politics, we're losing our way. And something that I harp on and something that I really push aggressively is this. As Americans, it is so unique, right? We have a responsibility to protect and preserve the freedoms, those things we hold to be so true and self-evident for our children, just as our forefathers did. And man, this is our turn. This is our time. The World War II generation wasn't the greatest because of the war. We know that. It's what they did after. They created America as we grew up in it. This is our time. We have fought, we have persevered, and we know what right looks like. We have to get involved. The health and welfare of our future generations and of our nation really are on our shoulders. We have to step in. We have to step once more into that breach.
Spec Ops Tools is a different breed of tool brand. They produce premium, innovative hand tools by leveraging the dynamic strengths of their veteran team and leadership. In addition to staffing vets, Spec Ops gives a part of every sale back to extremely worthy veteran service organizations. Producing elite tools is their business, and supporting American service members is their passion. Go check out Spec Ops Tools today. Prep for Impact is proudly brought to you by the Green Beret Foundation. The Green Beret Foundation offers emergency, immediate, and ongoing support to all generations of U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers, their families, caregivers, and survivors. The foundation provides direct support and advocacy to over 3,000 families each year. The Green Beret Foundation is here to assist you whenever you need them. Learn more at greenberetfoundation.org.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Reagan said it's never more than one generation from extinction, right? And I will say that it's tugged on me a little bit, and what ultimately, as I looked at it, I'm not throwing my hat in the ring right now. That's not what this episode's about, but I've certainly looked at it because when you grow up, and you devote service to the nation and to your fellow man and brother and sister left and right of you, and then you see an opportunity to potentially serve again and try, what I don't want. I have 3 kids that I love dearly. And I think, I'm wondering, this is one of my questions for you. One of the hesitance to being at all in the political arena is I don't want people going after my family. I don't want all these, smear attacks and all those things. But I also don't want in 20 years for one of my kids to look at me and say like, hey, you were at the point where you could have done something about this. Why didn't you do something about this? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things. We talked about one of them earlier, and I'm going to use it. It's a phrase that I use all the time. Green Berets are quiet professionals. Right. We know who we are, right? We don't pat ourselves in the back. We don't care who gets the credit. We want to do it right and get it done. Mm-hmm. But quiet and silent aren't the same thing. Yeah, right? 100%. When you're silent, people speak for you, and that's happened in our community for a long time. For veterans as a whole, but when you're quiet, people wait to hear you speak. That is our space. We are proficient, we're knowledgeable, and we know how to function and move forward rapidly with a violence of action, right? It's the same way in politics, right? Yeah. We have to do that. You talk about the children, and you're actually hitting on the biggest thing that weighs on my heart day in and day out. It is very real. Yeah. I've had death threats. I've had people come to my house and stalk us. Yeah. I understand another elected representative had a bullet go through his house. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Very real. Yeah. But here's the reality. How much worse is it going to get if people like us aren't a part of this? Yeah. To whom much is given, much is expected. And while I don't want to put my family in that position, it's not where I want them. I know that if I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do, and I believe people like you and I and people from our community can be that difference maker. Yeah. And if we have to go slay the dragon, then I got to raise my kids to be dragon slayers, and I have to arm them, not physically, but with the tools necessary.
You got to raise them up to be able to, not shrink away from something that they need to step into.
That's right.
To not, we don't want to sit around as a community and wait for others to lead. That's right. As a community who prides ourselves on having been through this furnace of refining fire of leadership, there's a lot of ways to make an impact. I mean, that's why the podcast called Prep for Impact. 2 of the reasons, right? One is how do we make an impact on our families, on our organizations, on our neighborhoods, on our local area, on our nation. And also, how do we come back from taking an impact? And I think the same resiliency that you showed throughout your career through injury and through wounds, that same resiliency is needed when sometimes as our country, we make mistakes or we falter and we have to come back from it. And we have to realize that, we've got to have strong leaders who obviously have their priorities in the right place and are after it for the better good and not for themselves, but also that have experience in situations like that. We oftentimes, unfortunately, elect people that maybe don't have near the track record that you have of not just leading, but coming back from adversity, right? Yeah. And so, I have been very inspired by the last 4 years of seeing guys and gals like you step up and say, okay, I think for me, there's a big noticeable difference in authenticity between people who are like, I want to stand up because I want to be elected and whatever else. And there's a lot of very humble, quality leaders like yourself who are stepping up and saying like, hey, it's not what I necessarily thought my transition plan was. You were running a very successful nonprofit.
That's right.
You were doing a lot of great things. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, hey, I've got this call again. I've had this call before and I went and served my country as Green Beret. Here's the call again. Let's talk about a little bit of your time. What was that first call like? When you first, you're growing up and you decide, I'm going to join, I'm going to serve the country. Ultimately, I'm going to go do this crazy thing and try to become one of these Green Berets. How did your process end up there?
Yeah, so it's kind of circuitous, right? Yeah. So I grew up in northeastern Montana on a farm and ranch. I was adopted by my grandparents, right? Yeah. My dad, my grandfather, was a World War II veteran. He was a misdrop on D-Day. He didn't talk much about it, but I knew a little bit just from paying attention as a kid. The military, that honor, the stories, the bond, the brotherhood, those pieces I picked up on. So I knew it was something that I wanted to do. And we lost our farm, man. Coming out of the 80s and out of the Carter years with the drought that was going on in Montana, the economic viability wasn't there. So the thing that defined my family, our generational family farm, got sold, right? And it changed everything. So at that point, you're not really sure where it's going to go. I'm playing sports.
That was the anchor point, and now it's gone.
It was what drove our family, who we were. It was our identity, right? And when that's gone, everything's disrupted. And then, my dad passed away, my grandfather, when I was in high school. I was a junior. My grandmother had a nervous breakdown. I went off to college for a couple of years. I thought I was going to be an NFL superstar, but I came to a realization I was 5'9" and 220 pounds, and it wasn't going to happen, right?
The mindset was there.
Mindset was there. The body was not. I tried, and I was modicum. There's a modicum of talent, but I was not that guy, right? And ultimately, I joined the Army because I tore my ACL, MCL, and broken my kneecap. They're like, "Man, you are really broken. You have to go into a soft skill MOS." I was like, "I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. I want to go do stuff, shoot guns, break down doors." They're like, "Look, you can be an X-ray tech, you can be an intel guy, or you can be a PAC guy. You're qualified for everything else, but you have to be in one of these low physical jobs." I was like, wow, that's not really what I want at all. But I joined, became an intelligence person because I envisioned James Bond with like a Norwegian accent, right? A little bit. That was not what it was. It was being in buildings with no windows for a long time. It's a little wonky. But ultimately, I'm grateful it happened, right? We can't choose the path that life puts us on, but we can sure choose our outcome.
Amen.
How we deal with that, right? How we grow from that moment. And I'll tell you, as an SF guy, learning to understand the strategic analysis and the big picture of what we were doing at a macro level, that made all the difference once I got in and had the opportunity to become a Green Beret. So I was at BNOC in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I ran off to Vegas with my wife after 2 months of dating. We're still married to this day. We have two amazing little boys that are 11 and 8. And we came back, and in true DOD fashion, right? Rather than moving one of us to the other, they said, hey, let's double down on our cost and move them both somewhere else. Fort Bragg was that place. So on 9/11, I was in jump school. At Fort Bragg. 9/10 was my first jump. I was pretty jazzed because the chute opened, and I got up and walked away. I was like, heck yeah.
I remember that feeling. Yep.
I did it. I don't love it, but I did it. And day 2 was going to be 9/11, jumps 2 and 3, and it didn't happen. I had no idea the towers had been hit until probably 10 hours afterwards. Remember those TVs they rolled out in high school?
Substitute teacher one?
Right, exactly, right? Well, that's how we found out about 9/11. My wife lived in D.C. at the time. She worked at the Pentagon. She was a counter-intel agent. So she did some pretty interesting things. And I had no idea. We didn't have cell phones and stuff back then. but we knew life was changing, right? Everything about our nation, about our military, we were becoming a nation at war rapidly. I was in first of the 325. I had just was working to go get a position in Corps Alert, so I was kind of backwards working my way into what I wanted to do, not what they had me do. And I got picked up for a one-person rotation to the Joint Interagency Task Force at MacDill Air Force Base. I had no clue what that was, right? I was like, that's a big acronym, man. Well, what does this do? Well, it meant I came here, I met Green Berets face-to-face for the first time. I understood what SOCOM was, what CENTCOM was, and I met guys from some of the tiered organizations. I was like, I get it.
Nice.
I got to figure out a way. And there was just one little roadblock. They wouldn't let intel guys go to selection. Dead serious. You could go, but if you got picked up, you couldn't go to the Q course.
I was just going to say, you talked about being able to have the strategic. I was thinking, like, man, that's such a leg up, because so few people understand as a Green Beret, as a Special Forces team member, especially as you work your way up into leadership, how much, there's other soft careers where you just sort of get a mission package and you go execute. Ours is much more like, here's a problem, go figure it out, and there's 20 layers of different things you're trying to figure out. So I was just thinking, man, as an intel, that you probably had a much better, but now, of course, we had an arbitrary rule that was standing in the way. So how did we get around it?
So after 9/11, and when all this happened, I was wrapping up this deployment, and they changed it. It was me and my buddy John Collins, also an SF guy, who were the first two intel guys in the door. Like,
nice.
Peace, we're here. I'm out, man. And went to selection, 2.5 weeks, didn't train up, didn't do anything. I was like, I don't know. I'm not going back. This is my path. I showed up. I was like, I remember telling the cadre, I don't care what you do. You can drive me behind a truck for 30 days. I'm not failing.
I love it.
And it ended up being this really wonky snowstorm class in November of 2002. Trees were freezing, falling on people. I mean, just crazy stuff. I ended up rescuing a dude who had hypothermia and carrying him back to the talk in the middle of land nav and then going back on my way, right? It's just crazy things. And it's kind of crazy. That's how my career went. That's how life has gone. It's not what you expected, but you get the opportunity to overcome and develop this heat and pressure, right? That's how we forge things. And it was that very way. So ultimately, I got the opportunity. I wanted to be a Bravo or a Charlie, maybe an Echo. I did not want to be a Delta. And they're like, hey, you got really good scores.
You're smart.
You're going to be an 18 Delta. It's like, I don't want to be.
It's because that's a lot longer of a Q course.
I want to get out there. I'm already a senior E6, man. I want to get on a team. I want to go do things, right? And they're like, well, do you want to be a Green Beret? It's like, absolutely. Well, then you're going to be an 18 Delta.
We told you what you were going to be.
Roger that. Okay.
I always like the, hey, I would like to be, and then you write it down, and then it's like, here's what you will be. Okay, fair enough.
This isn't a conversation
I do want to be a Green Beret, so fair enough.
Roger.
I will do that.
We're good, right? And, went just a few blocks down the road from the first of the 325 to the Q course, went through that, and it was amazing, right? Just to see the maturation and then development and getting closer to where I wanted to go. I was lucky to go to 7th Group, 732 and 734, 7132 and 7134 for the.
That's all right. I'm old school 7th Group too. We still had 3 numbers. I'm with you.
That's right, man. That's my jam, and it's Fort Bragg. It's still what I call it. It's muscle memory.
I know.
And I'm glad. I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to get to the war on terror. I wanted to get into the kinetic back and forth of this. But in the end, I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to understand the other soft missions first and to see what that looked like and to learn from, some really very senior people like Kelly Raup and SAR and folks who knew what mattered and the way we should do this. And, that's where SF was eventually going to get back to have that understanding to help impart down the road with folks mattered. Obviously, we went to Columbia a few times, did those things, went out to Tolomida, worked with the Bacoa, walked around in the jungle a few times. It was great, loved it. But then we went to Afghanistan with 734, 7134 now. And that's where, again, life takes a different turn, right?
It's so interesting as like across SF, across special ops period, but people have this view that like special forces, you sort of have like this monolithic career path. This could not be further from the truth, right?
100%.
Like you and I both went to the same group. we were only about a year apart from getting there. You got there about a year before me, and I did the opposite. I went to combat for 4 straight years and then learned about all of a sudden I was in South America. I'm like, oh, what do we? I forgot. I learned Spanish a couple years ago. It's just one of the things that I always say when kids, talk about like potentially wanting to go to SF and why I thought it was cool is like the Swiss Army knife of soft being Green Berets, but just the unlimited potential to have something be different. Like you're never really, you always got a new problem. And for guys like us that like the cognitive and cerebral side of like trying to figure out puzzles and all those things, like that's why it appeals and why it keeps us. Because it's not like, okay, I do this one thing as a Delta and that's all I'm ever going to do, right? And so it's super interesting, sort of the variety as we talk about, that's just in our own group at that one time, spread that across all of the different groups. There's so many different opportunities for variety. So you end up in Afghanistan, right? You're doing your combat rotation. All of a sudden, you get a big curveball.
A couple of them. I got to do the 2-way firing range. And the bad thing about that is sometimes you get shot and you get hit by things, and it goes a whole different direction than you expected, right? Yeah. So April of 2007, man, we're out in the middle of nowhere. Firebase Anaconda. It's every time you go out the wire, you're getting a gunfight. That's just the reality of it. That's what we wanted to do. I was at
Anaconda in 2006.
You know the deal, man.
That's
it is a kinetic area, and it was a Wild West, man. I mean, it was serious. So in April, they hit us front and back of the convoy, and it was unique. You can tell the difference between people who know what they're doing on the ground.
Effective fire versus
just fire. Were actually maneuvering. They were covering while they moved. Right. They had covering fire in placement, and they were utilizing their heavy assets appropriately. And I was like, there's something different here, right?
That's a huge departure from your average.
This
just
is
like
not the pray and spray, right? Exactly. It's a totally different thing. I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I remember putting it out on the radio, and then it's just like any gunfight, right? It ebbs, it flows, it crescendos, decrescendos, and it started getting gnarly, and rounds are popping in, and there's rounds popping all over the truck, and I got hit by a ricochet in my arm, and I didn't know I got hit. Your adrenaline's so high. I saw the rounds coming. I hit the 2 guys that were doing it. We put them down and it ended that game. And then it stops. So what do, man? You reload your weapon. You check everything.
Hold on, why am I leaking over here?
Well, I was slipping on stuff, man. I was like, dude, did they hit the water? Is it oil? I was like, oh, crap. Did they hit the rivets? Right?
Protect the cooler.
That's where my mind was. I need the caffeine, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't think anybody had been hit. And when I realized it was blood, it was about a liter of blood on the ground. I never even thought it was mine because my heart rate was still up. I was focused on what we were doing, and I turned and looked at our turret gunner, and it wasn't. Wasn't them. It was me. It was a me problem. We popped the tourniquet on and went back at it. We ended up in a gunfight for about 5 hours that day. I had a tourniquet on for about an hour. We changed it to a pressure dressing and went back. We had a bunch of people injured. I waved off medevac because I wasn't going to take a spot on the bird where other people needed it more. Right? You don't do that, especially as a senior medic. Right? You take care of others first. We did that. Fully expecting that there'd be a helicopter coming soon. It just wasn't a helicopter coming soon.
Anaconda is out in the middle of nowhere at the last part of the ring route. When we were there, we went a couple of months without ever getting resupply. We actually went black on food because it was the middle of the winter, and it's so far out there. I mean, you are a 45-minute helicopter ride from any other friendly forces.
100%.
And so those helicopters don't just show up like they do in other places.
It was the spring and the pass closed up and there was nothing coming, man. They were coming to get us. So as a medic, right, I'm getting pain, pallor, pulselessness. I'm like,
I know all these things.
Crap. No way, right? Like,
This episode is brought to you by Andy's Fund. The Master Sergeant Andrew Marcasano Suicide Prevention Fund supports the mental health care needs of Green Berets and their families not covered by military health care. GBF takes a holistic perspective, considering treatments and therapies that may address underlying concerns such as substance abuse, PTS, TBI, chronic pain, and more, which can contribute to suicidal ideation. The Green Beret Foundation aims to ensure every Green Beret and their family receives the necessary treatment and care, leaving no one behind. To learn more, visit greenberetfoundation.org/Andy's Fund. Spec Ops Tools has 2 missions: developing the highest performing hand tools available and supporting the men and women who serve our nation. They employ veterans, support veteran philanthropic events, and donate revenue from every sale to veteran service organizations that make a real impact. Go check out Spec Ops Tools today at specopstools.com.
Did you ever look at the War Wound Surgical Handbook?
No, I was a Charlie, so yeah.
Well, when you look at that up under fasciotomy, it looks like something from Homer Simpson, right? It's like an arm drawn in crayon with dotted lines that legitimately said "cut here."
Wow,
super! That is just fantastic, right?
Yeah.
You know, okay. So,
especially when it's you, and you're not doing it with somebody else. You're like, oh no, this is my arm that's drawn. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, all right. So we prepped my left arm for surgery, my right arm to help assist, and the junior medic, myself, and our Charlie and Bravo, we did a 2-compartment fasciotomy and cleaned it up, pulled the stuff out of it, and ultimately saved our own arm. My arm.
Awesome.
Went on, had a few more surgeries, and came back to the fire base about 30 days later, and just kept going, right? Yeah. And then we had that rare opportunity where, again, you get to be the first thing. They decided they wanted to overrun a fire base, right? It was the in vogue thing, right? I guess it was in a flyer somewhere, and they were directly assaulting our fire base. Yeah. So
and Anaconda sat in a very weird position where it was on the side of a mountain and was not the most strategic place ever, but had been around forever. I mean, it was an old Russian base, all these things. And I remember when we were there in 2006, it was like, it's not like we're going to rebuild in a different place. We did a lot of work to rebuild it in there, but I always thought, man, like we are, there are a lot of angles into this place. You feel a lot more like you're out. You're in the open, man. Yeah, you're in the open much more than
you got high ground all around you.
It's
right?
crazy.
It's nuts. It's like Custer chose this thing, right? Like, God, what are we thinking here, man?
The whole time, that was my first fire base as well, and it was like, is this what we're doing? Like, I get shot from there. Like, this seems weird, but
and that's exactly what happened. So we were getting like recoilless rifle fire and mortars and heavy machine guns and small arms, and it's coming in from plunging fire all over. Yeah, we lost like 11 head of horse. Our donkey, our mules got hit, our fuel blivets. It was crazy, right? I mean, it was like a bad G.I. Joe cartoon, right? And mortar hit, I dropped down about 20 feet, ended up, I didn't know it at the time, but I broke a bunch of bones in my T-spine, rounded off my spinal processes. Apparently it's bad for you. Yeah. Blew out a bunch of discs. Blew out a bunch of discs in my back, and like everything was attached. I had a headache. I'm dirty. I'm kind of pissed off, right? Just to be frank. And you get up and do what you got to do, right? So I get up, go back there, and we just keep at it, right? I didn't think anything about it. Come to find out later, as we went through kind of this medical process, I had really jacked up my back. It was compressing nerves all over. But it's a frog in a pot, right? You're focused on just getting first to the top of the water. You don't see the water temperature, and you just keep pushing, right? I was focused on being there with the guys to my left and right. I wasn't going to let them down. And we didn't. So we finished that up, and I went back, and I wanted to go try something new, right? I wanted to go one of those tiered organizations. So I went to selection, and for the first time, I really encountered something that drove me crazy. I failed, right?
It's hard.
Right? It's so frustrating. But it was weird, man. Like my foot was dragging behind me. I couldn't feel it. It wasn't. You tell it to go left, and it doesn't go left. It kind of does something else.
Fighting your own body.
Yeah, right. And I'm tripping up mountains, down mountains. I'm rolling down mountains with a rucksack, which is never awesome, right? We've all done it to some degree or another. And I'm like, all right, whatever, man. I need to train up differently. So I get an opportunity to go back. I go back again, and again, I get all the way there, and I'm just not quite fast enough. But by this time, my foot's dragging. I'm leaving like streak marks in the dirt. And they're like, hey, look, you can come back. We want you to come here and do something. Come here as a medic. Let's get you healthy and all this stuff. And I was like, super, we'll do that, right? I'll take that opportunity. And knowing full well what I want to do. And I bumped into the physical therapist, right? And she looked at my leg. I had 3 inches of atrophy. I had no reflexes. My capillary refill was diminished. Wow. She's like, what is wrong with your leg? I was like, I don't know what's wrong with my leg.
It's not functioning.
It's not working the way I want it to. Can you fix it? She's like,
don't work.
You need to get an MRI tomorrow. I was like, really? Is it that bad? He's like, yes, it's that bad. What is you're a medic? Like, better. It's like, but I'm
medics are the worst. Medics are the worst. That's the
opposite.
Care
of other people, right?
Medics are the worst patients. Yeah, absolutely.
And, I know we're about half past here. I'll kind of cut a longer story short a little bit, but ultimately they found out that I had really screwed up my back, blown out those discs. I had. When you look at discs, it's like a donut, right? You don't want the cream in the middle, the filling to spill out. Well, it was spilled everywhere, right? It was a mess. And it showed the T-spine where I've got all these arthritic changes and things now. We're all rounded off, and it kind of made sense, right? And the physical insults with the shrapnel and stuff wasn't the big deal, right? Like that wasn't the problem. It was the overpressure and all of that stuff. So they sent me to Walter Reed. They're like, yeah, your back is jacked. But they thought it was an autonomic nervous system issue, and that spinal surgery and back surgery was going to fix this and be back on my path. That's partially true, but it really wasn't. So we did that, did the surgery, trained up, went back and got ready to go to OTC. And you get one shot at this, right? You can't walk away from that, man. Like I am not going to go through all of these things and suck up things that I didn't want to do in an order I sure didn't want to do it in, and not take this opportunity. And I could feel that I wasn't where I needed to be. And you get about, again, 3/4 of the way through and you're just not performing. I'm tripping, and at this point I'm starting to have pain. It's uncontrollable, right? Like it doesn't make sense. I'm not connected to my foot, and I'm still too hard-headed to take a knee and really get fixed. And the medical system, it doesn't understand, right? They're like, it's all about your back. So this goes on for years. I failed OTC, stayed on as a medic, and continued on, and got into some other arenas in the like the WMD arena and some things that folks from our community don't normally do. But again, it wasn't what I wanted, and I couldn't control my anything else other than my reaction and how I work through this. You got to make the best of it, right?
Bloom where you're planted.
That's right. And that's what I did. We worked our tail off. We wanted to be the very best what we could be. Just taking the skills and the traits that we were selected for, right? And that we want to put into play. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I'm finally like taping my foot with athletic tape because I can't.
You get drop foot and everything.
It's dragging everywhere. It's drop foot.
Crazy.
The atrophy's there. The hair is falling out. My skin is blue. The toenails fell out. And it's like freaking Mr. Deeds leg, man. I've got pitting edema, 2 inches thick. I could take a 50-cent piece and stick it in my leg, and by the end of the day, it would still be there to some degree. My foot would swell up from just the swelling, pushing down to yay big around and have a boot imprint by the end of the day. They eventually put me in a brace called the IDEO, and I was like, cool, man, I'm going to try this out. I broke like 17 of those in a year, fast roping and free falling. And, I finally, you hit that point where I thought I was going to be able to push through this. Like, we don't give up, man. It's not what we do. And we were on a jump, and a dude cut in and cut my hair, and my chute collapsed, right? I was like, oh, crap, here we go. And it finally reopened. I got canopy, and I was coming in hot, right? And I had jumped enough times. I knew how to handle this. And I led in with my left leg like I always had. Every single time, right? I'm a left leg dominant guy. And this brace exploded. Like it exploded. Struts went one way, part of the foot went the other. And I couldn't control myself. I was a dead stick. So I'm doing an endo, I'm rolling, and I realized, like, what do I do, man? Like, I cannot do this. I'm going to kill myself. Or I'm going to kill somebody.
That's tough.
And you don't want to be that weak link. And you don't want to admit that you're broken, right? So, at this point, they finally decided, like, look, you're going to have to do an MEB, man. And they actually brought in the Mayo Clinic at that time. It's crazy. Just to take a look at this and figure out what was going on. And they did this longitudinal study of a million different things. And they're like, here's the issue. You have lymphatic failure. It's not working. You have arterial compromise and venous compromise. It was like a line in the sand where it was good tissue and bad tissue. And the best they could come up with, because it was just such a bizarre thing, is that where I was probably 15 feet, 12 feet from the mortar, the blast impact caused this in concert with a fall and the nerve damage caused by it. It was just a superstorm of events that caused this.
So your body just didn't circulate anything well through that one leg, right?
That's
Whether
right.
it was feeling blood.
That's right. It just kept dying. Essentially, it was like the end, a diabetic leg.
So it was like compartment syndrome for that.
It wasn't even compartment syndrome. It was dead. Nothing worked. All the plumbing, all the electrical. It's like a dead house, right? And that was my leg. The pain I was feeling was ischemic pain. It was actually the tissue dying. The smell that was there and all the wonkiness was just, it was the tissue dying, right?
Wow.
And ultimately, I was ready to cut my leg off years before. I'm surprised I didn't try to do it myself. I was just so focused on doing what I needed to do. And ultimately, they were like, yeah, your leg, you're going to lose your leg now or in the future. And I was like, done. Let's go.
Yeah. Book it right now.
We're good. Yeah. And a month later, they brought me and we cut it off. I went through 6 months of rehab. And I remember waking up 3 days after the surgery. And I was like, holy crap, man, I feel good. Like when you get all of that pain, and I was probably at 6 or 7 out of 10 every single day for years at this point, operating and trying to do all the things we do, man, it changes everything, 100%, right? You're caustic, you're angry, you're not thinking clearly, and you're still able to maintain your place in this tribe, this place you want to be. But I know that I wasn't at my max, and to wake up and just it all synced, and I felt good. And I'll cut a little bit short here. Ultimately, I didn't want to retire. I was at 18 years when this happened. They were not down with that, right? The Army was like, you are really old. You need to retire. I was like, just give me the opportunity. So I bumped into a guy, Ray Odierno, the general. He's a giant human being. Right?
He came to our fire base at one point, at some point like 07 or so. Yeah, he's a big dude.
So I was doing box jumps and just hammering it, you know, breaking it off. He's like, what is your deal, man? Like, you are not
what are you doing?
like the other people. Something's broken here. And I told him, I was like, look, man, I'm a Green Beret. I'm going to requalify. I just need the Army to get out of the way, right?
Nice.
I want my opportunity. He's like, I'll make sure you get it.
Nice.
He called my boss the next day.
Nice.
And then my boss's boss, right? And this circled down the chain, like, what the hell did you do? Who did you speak to? I was like, he was there, and I said, I wanted to requalify. And he said, I get the chance. The Sergeant Major of the Army called me.
Nice.
Crazy, right? And it's like, hey, you're going to get your shot, man. Take it.
Nice.
So we did it, and, you know, I'm just grateful, right? All you want is the opportunity. You don't want the outcome.
Sure.
Nobody wants to be that weak link, and we were able to do it. I had the chance to serve for 5 years after I lost my leg. And
that's awesome.
Again, things don't always go how you plan, right? I deployed a few times in between all of that and did other things. But having the access and learning about all these nuanced things that were going on, I got to help start up the 4th Battalions in the OSW. And I closed out my career in the 18 Delta Corps, imparting the things that I had learned and all of the layers of lessons that life had dropped on my shoulders to the next generation of medics. It was really a great place to close it down. And at this point, I'm struggling because people want me to talk and they want me to use my voice, and like, that's not who we are, right? And I remember talking to senior leaders. They're like, look, man, that's where you're wrong. You're being silent, man. Go do the right thing. You have been through things that others don't understand. And you need to impart that and share that with people, right? Like, those things matter, whether it's civilian or the next generation. You have a story to tell. And it got there. I started speaking and sharing our story and sharing my story. And, you know, in this time, I did the Warrior Games a couple of times. I got to be part of Team USA with Invictus, which was crazy. And, you know, just different opportunities, things I never saw coming, never thought would come my way. And I decided to retire, man. It was time. I was struggling to keep it up with all the back injury and stuff. And I didn't want to be that weak link, and I dropped my packet. And ultimately, at a speaking event, I met a nonprofit. It's the one I work for here now, and we feed people barbecue. Right? If you had told me I would have retired from the military, worked for a nonprofit, and been focused on barbecue after my career and all the things, I would have told you you're nuts, man. Like, not a freaking chance. Right?
I remember when I was one of the SOFICs before COVID, and you guys were doing Operation Barbecue really out there, and I was like, somehow I found out that you were, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, it's like, I completely didn't see that coming. It was like a complete curveball, but it was super cool because you guys were doing, like, it wasn't just some little thing. Like, it was very successful, and you guys had a lot going on.
Let's go big or go home, right? If you're do it right.
It's awesome.
So, it was great. They offered me this position. I built our military veteran and first responder programs, which was pretty awesome. And, you know, eventually I got to step in. I run our disaster and our non-disaster.
I got the name right? Operation Barbecue Relief. Okay, I was making sure. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. In case people can look it up and check it out.
It's www.obr.org, operationbarbecuerelief.org. We focus on a couple things, right? We give back to people after natural disasters. We believe in what we call the healing power of barbecue, that one hot meal that matters. And ultimately, it's the same things we learned as Green Berets, right? Sit down, break bread, bring people in, you solve problems, right? And that's what we do. Barbecue's comfort food. So we did 900,000 meals after Hurricane Ian. It made a huge difference in like 19 different sites around the state. We've hit every tornado this year. We've been at every disaster. You can imagine since then. But it's what we're doing with our veterans, first responders, and military. That's pretty cool. We call it the Always Serving Project. And whether we know it or not, each of us are always serving, just like we did in uniform, right? You can be a positive or negative for the people around you. And I choose to be a positive, right?
Yeah.
I choose to put all that behind me, all the things that didn't go how I wanted them to do, and I had to make the best of. Yeah, I was angry. There was times where I was frustrated. I was angry, and I was like, why me? Why is this happening? Why did I not get to do what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not about you, right?
Yeah.
Life goes on. You have to make the best of it. You don't dictate those terms, but you will make the best of what you got. You have one chance, make it work. Yeah. And when I stopped feeling sorry for myself and I focused on what mattered, you move forward and you blaze a path that no one even knew existed. And that's where it went, right? Now we give back to veterans around the country. We teach them to grill and cook and give back to their family and their community. We bought a camp in Lake of the Ozarks. It's 180 acres, 1 mile of waterfront. And we do what we call culinary therapy. I believe a lot of the breakdown in our country comes from the breakdown of the family and the time.
Yeah.
The
family dinner table kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe a family that cooks together and eats together stays together. So that's what we do. We go hunting, fishing, boating, and we use food to draw people together, one hot meal at a time. We bring in veterans, military, first responders, but we encapsulate that with their families.
That's
so
awesome.
if you're going to overcome things, your family has to be a part of it, man. There's nothing worse than being at a thing and your family's completely taken away from it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You're learning all these skills and your family's left behind. It creates issues in the family, and you never really get over that guilt. Like, look, man, my wife was a 20-year veteran. Yeah. She retired when I was in Walter Reed, gave up her career to take care of me. Gave up her career to make sure that our son, who's autistic and was throwing up 8, 10, 12 times a day, had a chance. So her sacrifice, just like we learned in the military,
100%.
made it possible. So I was not going to fail my family. I was not going to fail and make her sacrifice, not worthwhile, right? It mattered. It was profound. And we have to take those moments. So I still work there. It's what we do. And again, if you told me with all of those things that I was going to eventually step into politics, not a freaking chance. Zero chance.
Hey,
not
man,
where I wanted to be.
It's so, so much of what you just talked about of your journey is so applicable. I talk about like, why do I want to have this podcast, right? It's like, I believe in the strength of story and learning from others' perspective. And a lot of times, I've talked to people about it and they're like, well, I'm not going to lose my leg and have to, and it's like, yeah, but you're going to have so many times in your life where exactly what you said, it's not what I thought I was going to get into. It's not what I wanted to do, whatever, but all I can control is how I approach it. Right. I had a lot of similar, unfortunately, like the chronic pain thing and having to overcome that. I had that, starting in 07 and 08, where it was a frog in a boiling pot of water kind of thing for me, where I suddenly realized that I was incredibly irritable and all these things. And I was snapping at my kids over something where they were just being kids. And I realized because I was walking around at 8 or 9 all the time, and there was only a little bit of left on the needle, and I had to go like, all right, man, I got to raise my hand, go figure this out. Like, go to a site, go to prep, go to anything and figure it out, because we can't choose, as you said, we can't choose our situation. We can't choose, what situation we're put in. We can only choose on how we approach it and how we get better from it.
That's right. We react to the situation around us.
I had to realize, like, okay, man, like, it doesn't matter why I'm in all this pain. It doesn't matter if it was for a good and noble cause. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. It's like,
it is
right
what it is.
Now, right now it is what it is. And I need my wife and kids to not take splashback from this.
That's right.
And so, like, let me go get some help. And I love what you said about with OBR, having the family brought in, because such a breakdown. We're gone all the time. We're doing all these different things. And then it's hard. I've gone to a couple of different things where it's only for us, and you feel super guilty because it's like, I already spent enough time away from my wife and kids, and like, yeah, I want to go do this and it's therapeutic and whatever else, but okay, great, I get to go do this fishing thing, but my wife and kids, now it's another weekend I'm away, right?
That's right.
I love the idea of bringing it together, making it about community, because we all need that social network.
That's right.
And the family's the strongest one you have.
Not me, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. All right, so we talked about politics a little bit in the beginning, right? But now we're doing, we've come out, we've overcome all these challenges. We're doing OBR. At what point do you start getting this itch of like, I need to step up again?
So, we're taught a lot of lessons and little parables in life,
Sure.
right? And as Green Berets, we kind of learned those from the generation before us. And, it's how we impart that knowledge, right? It's that team room dynamic, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's done in a rough way. Sometimes it's just done over a beer, right?
Sure,
but in the end, we learned those things, right? And when the election happened, right? And I was pretty frustrated, like many people, right? I didn't like where it was. And I didn't see a lot of people who espoused our values. I didn't see people who had the functionality to do what needed to be done. And I was frustrated, right? Yeah. And when your kids say something that you've said many times, and they kind of throw it back at you.
And it cuts through.
My little guy, he's Gabriel. He's autistic. He's gifted. He's brilliant, and he just sees things a different way. Yeah. And I was complaining about this, and I'd always told him, "Look, man, don't complain if you don't have a solution, right?" And I was complaining. He said, "Well, Dad, what are you going to do about it?"
Nothing cuts harder than your own words coming back.
Oh my gosh, right? Like, dude.
This episode is brought to you by the 1952 Society. By joining the 1952 Society, donors become a part of an exclusive group of Green Beret Foundation advocates dedicated to providing vital support and assistance through a tiered donation system. Donors can choose a level that reflects their generosity and receive exclusive benefits and recognition in return. Together, we can ensure that our U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers, their families, caregivers, and survivors receive the support they need when they need it most. Visit greenberetfoundation.org/society to join the ranks. So unfortunately, within the Special Forces community, suicide has become an epidemic. And suicide prevention is something that we all want to take part in. And it's not just clicking through some slides on a suicide prevention brief. The Green Beret Foundation stood up Andy's Fund directly to try to address some of the underlying concerns like chronic pain, TBI, PTSD that previously weren't supported in suicide prevention programs. To learn more, please visit greenberetfoundation.org/Andy's Fund.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, good question, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Yeah. So it's what we do, right? We adapt and you do analysis. You look through the situation and you realize, I can do this. So we figured it out. We did the math. We did the measuring. We did the planning. And then we moved with a violence of action to what we thought we needed to do. Yeah. It went very well. I ran for Congress. We got picked up in a bunch of the programs and things that really make a difference, like the Young Guns. Yeah. It was the first time somebody got picked up in the history of the program in a district that wasn't targeted. And then, again, it seems like the story of my life. Things happened that I can't control, right? They changed the maps in the district. It's redistricting. It happens every 10 years. We won a seat in our governor's maps. I 100% support. I think he made the right decision. It's a leader's decision. It was what was best for the state, but it wasn't what was best for me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And that's okay.
That's tough. Yeah.
Eventually, you shift, you adjust fire. And then I got a call to Tallahassee. We were doing very well. It was probably 50-50 whether I would win that congressional seat or not. Yeah. And, there's no guarantees in life. And I got a call to Tallahassee that the governor and his team wanted to meet. I was like, well, this is either really good or really, really bad. Probably not a lot of in between, right? And we met with him, and he's like, Jay, we want you, after 3 hours of questioning and figuring out what I thought, where my moral compass was. Sure. Was I willing to stand up and say what needed to be said? Did I have courage, candor, conviction, commitment? Was I audacious? Yes. We hit those things. And he said, look, man, I want you to run for state senate. I know it's not what you want to do, but this is what the state needs you to do. And here's why. We need to have a supermajority. We want to have a heavy-hitting session. We want to push the ball. Yeah. And I think you can win. I was running against the mayor's mother-in-law in Tampa Bay. To say she's entrenched is an understatement. And it's a blue district, right? I'm a Republican. I'm pro-God, pro-gun, pro-life. I have not hid that. I'm unequivocal in that approach. Right. I know who I am, and I'm not going to hide from it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, let's see how this plays out, right?
That's not what I was expecting, but okay. Right? Yeah.
So, we did it. We slapped the table. And, the thing that he did and the thing that he said that I really just respected is I told him, look, I don't need you or anybody to make a difference. I am going to persevere and I'm going to work and we're going to do this. But I believe in you. Yeah. I believe in what you stand for. I believe in the fact that you say what needs to be done. You have a task, a condition, a standard, and you hold people accountable. Yeah. That is why I'm willing to do it. And if we don't agree on something, I'm not going to do it just because you asked me to. If I disagree and it is against my beliefs or my moral compass, I'm doing what I believe is right.
I want you to know that from the beginning.
And he said something. He's like, I understand that, but that's why we want you.
Yeah, that's great.
Because you know who you are. You're willing to. I don't think that's what his team was expecting to be said. But,
we'd also like you to. But
luckily, I don't identify as a politician, right?
That's great.
And 5 months later, we won by 10 points, and now I get to represent Tampa Bay, MacDill, and I got to do some pretty remarkable things for a brand new guy in politics. I got to run the constitutional carry bill for the state, which is awesome.
Thank you for that, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, it's one step moving that thing forward, right? We got to keep planting that flag. But again, you don't have that opportunity in life, right? And again, persevering and just listening to the voice and listening to what has to be done, not what you want to do, but what you need to do. We can make a heck of a difference, right? So I ran that. I ran the bill stopping China from purchasing land in the state of Florida. It blocks countries of concern from buying ag land and critical infrastructure. Because again, our enemies are telling us who they are, what they're about.
They're doing it straight up.
We better take it serious. I got to run the choice in sports bill, which was really amazing. It allows children to go play sports regardless of public, private, whatever charter. But it also says that if you're in a Christian school and you're playing against a Christian school and you want to pray before the game, you can. You have that right. And we have put that in writing and made sure that happened, right? And we signed that bill right here in Tampa Bay. It's meaningful, right? I got to be the chairman of the Ag Committee at a time when agriculture is really flailing. Growing up on a farm and having lost our family farm and our way and our identity. Again, life goes in the direction it's supposed to. I didn't want to go through that, but it sure gave me a heck of a perspective for what I'm being asked to do right now. And we're trying to stabilize, revitalize, and grow agriculture. $1.3 billion in actuated loss so far in citrus alone. We are down to 53 dairy farms in the state. 5 years ago, it was 106. 5 years before that, it was over 260. Agriculture is suffering from the hurricane, from the freeze, from greening, and it's about 50% of our economy. We got to get this right. And again, you're put in the place to make a difference. So I got to run the ag bill, and we did the farm team card to make sure that the things they were supposed to get tax exempt, they could by showing a card. Because none of them were following through and doing the hard way. We did a Florida First program. We put things in place to really just shore up agriculture. In the end, I ran 30 bills. We passed 22. And I don't do it the way it's been done. I do it the way we would do it to solve a problem and leave it better than we got it, right? That's the approach. And we're going into session 2, and we're focused on economy, education, safety in the community. Obviously, military and first responders are a key component of that, and making sure they have the time, tools, training necessary to complete their mission and go back home to their family safe and just make a difference, right? That's where we are. And I guess I'll leave it with this. I didn't want these things to happen the way they did. But I can see now in retrospect, everything that I was put through, everything that just had to temper that steel and taught me that lesson. And when I finally put my ego in, calmed down and was willing to listen and learn that lesson, is all practical and it all applies to what we're doing now. And we have the ability to make that difference because we learned those lessons, because we took that path less traveled, because as Green Berets, we're problem solvers, right?
It's funny. I was thinking of this morning, completely not even thinking about this interview, just in general, doing some reflection on my own, kind of ups and downs and getting kicked down and all these things. And I was thinking, part of really feeling that maturation process is being able to look back and say, God, I really didn't like when you did that or when that was put in my path. But now looking back, I see how important it was that led to this. And that gave me the opportunity to learn. We were talking with a previous guest about, for me, some of the injuries that I had made me empathetic as a team sergeant that I would not have been. I had a couple of guys who needed to be able to take a knee. And had I not had that myself, I would have probably looked at them, you're just, being
Stop.
a dirtbag, whatever.
Move.
And I think it was God preparing me to make the right decision at the right time. And it's very tough to be able to look back and some of the worst days of your life think, well, it's a good thing it happened. But, that's sort of the ability there at the end to be able to look back and say, yeah, I needed that. Yep. I don't like it. I don't want to go through it again, but I needed it. And I'll say, I grew up in Georgia. If you would have told me I was going to retire and stay in Florida, I would have been, you're crazy. There's no way. It's not going to happen. But there's nowhere else I'd rather be right now. As far as feeling as if the people that are shepherding the state are trying to do the right thing. There's a whole lot of different political spectrum, all those different things. And some people won't agree with some of the decisions.
That's right.
But I will say that by and large, for most folks in Florida, you look at over the last 3 to 4 years and you say, hey, there was a lot more better decisions being made than in other places. And as I said earlier, I think you can tell authenticity when someone why do they want to be in a position of power? And there are people who don't come off as authentic, and there are people who do come off as, hey, they're trying to serve rather than to be served or to have this elevated, and so from me to you, I appreciate your commitment. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate what, the session has done so far, because I think we're moving things in the right direction, and we feel that as constituents. When the media tells us everything's going to hell in a handbasket, it may be true, but there are people trying to stem the tide, and that's a great thing. And I love the fact that there are Green Berets and SEALs and other vets who are stepping into that breach and being part of the solution, because who better to lead it, right?
If not me, then who, right?
Yeah,
if not
absolutely.
now, then when? It's the Green Beret mindset, and it's the soft mindset, and it's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
We have to run to the sound of the guns.
Yeah.
That's who we are. When I put all of those things aside, like we talked about, it wasn't the next ridgeline I wanted, but it's the one that really mattered. Guys, we're going to fight for our nation. Yeah. And, I'm going to put my political hat on here a little bit, but it's true, right? Yeah. We have a responsibility as Americans, right, to pass the freedoms that we receive from our families, from our forefathers down to our kids. And if we're not willing to step into that breach, like we talked about sooner, man, we're failing. We are put here for a purpose, to solve problems, to lead, to be on that forward edge, that ragged edge, because that's where we operate. That's where we find our nation, man. The economy, how we're viewed internationally. There are legitimate problems. Our nation is being ripped apart. People will tell you we're divided by race, creed, color, gender, everything under the sun. But we are all Americans. We are all God's children. And we have so much more in common than that which divides us. We have to remind people of that. When we as Americans remind ourselves and remember who we are going to move forward as a nation in a way that most probably don't even think is possible. And I believe in that. Yeah. I know you do, and I know people from our community do. And man, it is always worth it. Yeah. I am so grateful for the lessons now, with hindsight being 100% that I went through, because it got me to a point where I get to fight on a ridgeline for my children, and to be out there and make sure that they don't have to fight the battle that we can win today. Yeah. So we can let them do whatever they have to do and take this country and our family and all the things we believe in and all the things we want for them beyond what we think is even possible. And as a dad, man, like, what else do you want in life, right? Yeah. That's what it is. That's where it's at. And, I think more than anything, if you're going to sum up everything in a word, it's grateful.
Yeah. Well, I phenomenal, and I'm grateful to have this conversation. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your career and all of these different things, because it is so impactful. There's so many things that even if you're listening, you're not a Green Beret, whatever else, you're going to get knocked down, and there are ways to rally to that and learn from others' perspective. And then, again, thanks for what you're doing day to day. Thanks for coming in here. Hopefully all of you out there have enjoyed this episode as much as I have. I appreciate you listening to Prep for Impact. You're on the ground floor because this is one of the first episodes, and I appreciate that. Whether you're listening right now when it's coming out, or whether, we're a year in the future and you're coming back to see some of the previous episodes, I appreciate your time and your opportunity to be able to join us in sort of these conversations. And, if you want to check out, obviously you can find Jay Collins on a ton of different social media. You can also check out OBR, and you can always check out Prep for Impact on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, whatever. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you throw a rating out there. And if you got somebody who you think will be as inspired by this episode as you were, hey, send it to them and tell them to give it a listen. Also, check out the Green Beret Foundation. As we mentioned a couple of times, there's amazing work being done for our community. Our community needs it after 20 years of war, and there's people all the way back into Vietnam that are still going through needs that the Green Beret Foundation walks alongside them and helps them get through it. So check out Green Beret Foundation on all Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all that mess. Hey, and if you want to get a laugh, if you want to have some team room humor, you can always check out another SF meme page on Instagram, get a few chuckles. And again, thank you all. Thank you, Jay, and thank you all out there for listening to Prep for Impact.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Prep for Impact. Just as a reminder, everything you heard on this episode and every episode of Prep for Impact are just the opinions of the speakers, whether that's the host or the guest, and they're not the official position of either the Green Beret Foundation, their employers, the Department of Defense, or anyone else. And with that disclaimer in mind, I want to take a quick second to give you my opinion on the best way to prep for impact. Across my life, whether it's as a Green Beret or personally, I found no more secret weapon than to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, my Savior, and to walk his path rather than mine. And so if you're curious about that, or if you ever want to talk, my DMs are always open. Thanks for listening to Prep for Impact.